Well, hi, everybody. My name is Lauren Parra. I'm the Director of Public Affairs over at the Miami Foundation, and I'm happy to be here as a guest host on Radical Partners Civic Chat number 2 with my friend Nikki Sarkin from Radical Partners. And we're here to talk about Vote Miami and the upcoming elections that we're expecting here locally. And just really wanted to dig in with our partner on this Vote Miami site to make sure that this resource is available, it's user friendly, and can really be accessible for folks who are gearing up to vote in our upcoming August 18th primary.
August 18th, a week from today, is a big countywide election primary for all sorts of races, from federal to state to local. And so excited to be here with you, Lauren. I love the foundation, great partner in this project, and I'm excited to dive in and get people using the website and informed and activated and getting their friends and family to the polls.
Absolutely. So if you can, Nikki, I would just love for us to talk about the website for a few minutes. I love this website. It is set up so well. It is so user-friendly from the get-go. It's easy to navigate, but also it's just beautifully designed. And so it's fresh and it's clean and it's simple. I think it's really inviting for voters from every spectrum of the aisle to really come and use this as a trusted resource that's going to provide neutral, unbiased, just information to help decision make. So I just want to just ask if folks have 10 minutes maybe to prepare for their trip to the ballot box. What can they do on the Vote Miami site?
So I will share my screen now. This is the website, and we break it down, just as Lauren said, into if you only have 10 minutes to do voting, to be civically engaged today, what can you do on the website? And so the website is broken down into 3 different sections. It's register, where you can register to vote, get your vote by mail ballot, check your vote by mail status, and then this learn section where you can learn about the candidates, learn about the decisions that they make on a day-to-day basis, how they affect you, what you're really voting for and how that affects you on a day-to-day basis. And then you also can do a deep dive into the candidates, their social media links, and create a custom ballot and even make a plan to vote. And then it's also this last section, this mobilize section, which is, right, once you've done your part, it doesn't stop there. Democracy works when all of us are represented. That's the best when it's at its strongest. And so getting your friends and family out to the polls is just as important. So you'll find resources that the community's put together and our team has also put together to get everyone out there.
That's great. That's great. And it's, again, so simple and straightforward. I think that folks who are, again, gearing up and getting ready and engaging in early voting this week, and potentially folks who are planning to either send in their vote by mail ballots or show up in person on the 18th, can navigate the site pretty easily. But if you can indulge me, I would love to dive a little deeper into each of the individual sections on the site as they serve as individual resources. So I think the first question that a lot of folks would ask is really where they can find out who their elected officials are and what they do, what their different positions mean, what those responsibilities entail, and how they really interact with the folks who are living here in Miami.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most confusing things too, right? Is there are so many, as you'll see on this website. So the section that you can go to for this is this Who Represents Us section. And right, there's so many different government positions from local to state to federal. It's like, who controls what, who does what. And so we put together this page that takes you through each of the sections. So right, in each section of government, local, state, and federal, you have a judicial branch, an executive branch, and a legislative branch. And so we break it down here, and you can click into each of these to figure out, right, top down, who runs each of these sections. So the county mayor is the head, and surprise, we're actually voting for them this coming election. So learning about what they do, what decisions they make is really important. what agencies they run. If you didn't know, they control public housing, libraries, all of these things. Then the county commission, which we're also voting for, and down all the way down to municipalities, and what they control as well. And we do that through each of the sections. And again, as I said, in August and then also in November, we're going to be voting essentially many of these folks over again. And so really important to know who you're voting for, what you're voting for, and what things they control, because it really affects, right? Like all of these agencies that they control affect your lived reality and experience on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's great. And I really like how you've chosen to kind of build it out basically from proximity to the individual resident. And so starting with your local government here at the county level and then working upwards to your next set of elected officials, your state reps and your state senators, all the way to your federal representation. It's really thoughtful and intuitive. So I think people will find that Government 101 page really helpful. But I think the question that we're all asking ourselves, certainly this week and getting ready to cast those ballots, is who are we voting for right now? So what is, and I know that in previous Civic chats, you guys have kind of touched on this, but of course in Miami, we have an August 18th primary leading up to our November elections. And so I think viewers, residents, voters would love to know exactly who it is that we're voting for on August 18th.
Who's trying to fill these positions is the next important question. And so we built out this page called the Candidate 101 page. You can find it here on votemiami.org. And I'll go through just what I was saying beforehand, party primaries and final elections, if you want to reread this. And then we have all the races listed here below. And there are some of these really cool toggle things that I love that you can just click on them and it takes you down. And you can go through and see all the candidates. If you click on their faces, that'll take you to their candidate websites, and you can learn a little bit more about their stances. You can click into their social media, because we know social media is so important these days, and see their faces, see their viewpoints, see what they're doing in the community. And then I actually want to send the mic back to you, Lauren, so you can talk about, these are some really cool forum series events that Lauren and the foundation have been putting together. So tell us a little bit more about it, please.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nikki. Here over at the Miami Foundation, we of course anticipated, like everybody else who's here living in Miami, a almost 50% new county commission coming up in our new set of elections. And so with such a high amount of vacated seats, we wanted to make sure that we were providing a platform not only for the candidates who are running for these really important offices, but also a platform for community members and residents to interact with candidates, to ask their questions, to understand their viewpoints, their stances. And of course, frankly, we had envisioned this really differently when we started planning for this entire series. But I think we've been, frankly, really grateful for the community's ability and interest to really pivot and do a fully virtual series and be just as engaged, frankly, if not more engaged, through a totally Zoom centric kind of forum series. And so we've had, up until now, I think we've done 5 county commission seats, which are the 5 that are going to be vacated because of term limits. And we posted an additional mayoral forum earlier in the summertime. And so all those forums can be seen and found and rewatched over on the Vote Miami site.
Genuinely, the forum series have been amazing. If you haven't checked them out, you definitely should. And applause to Lauren and her team. They're so helpful. I think it's so important to hear directly from candidates' voices and to really make it a public forum for folks to be able to ask what specifically is impacting their lives. And thank you for mentioning that there are also other community forums on there that you can check out and inform your vote. And I have to say, I used it for my own voting, and it was really helpful. So I hope it helps you too. And before we hop off of this page, I also wanted to share that we have if there are other races, right? As we said, we only covered here the community resources for the county-wide races, because again, 100+ races is really difficult cover, and we know that it's difficult to know everything. And so we put together this spreadsheet here, which you can go through, and it'll show you key dates, all the races that are happening nonpartisan wise, democratically, if you're a registered Democrat or Republican, community partners that you can get in contact if you want to be involved, and so much other things. So please check out the spreadsheet and see all the races that are happening.
I will admit it is a week out from August 18th. I have not yet early voted, and it is on my calendar for tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully I will see some of you at the Coral Gables Library tomorrow, probably around 5 p.m. But in light of that, now that I know where to find my candidate 101 and where to do research on exactly who it is that I'm going to be voting for, what are the other kind of preparations and steps that I can take to make sure that I'm ready for my 5 p.m. date tomorrow at the Coral Gables Library?
Well, I love that. Have fun at the Coral Gables Library. I will say, not to be pompous, but I have done my vote by mail ballot. So I'm pressuring all of you out there, get it in. It's due by 7 p.m. on election day. So get out there, send it, drop it off in a box, be safe as well. But again, great question is, now that you know what you're voting for, who you're voting for, what can you do next on the website? And so not only, I mean, first and foremost, you should be registered. Unfortunately, for the primaries, if you're not registered, it's a little too late, but you can still register for November. Very important election coming up in the general election. And you can also register for your vote by mail ballot. So please go and do those things. You can do it on the homepage. There are buttons for everything. There's a awesome voter hotline that Florida has. Putting together this website, I've had lots of questions about voting, and so I wake up in the morning and I give the Florida hotline, voter hotline, a call, and they're great and they'll really help you. So please get out there and register to vote. There are a lot of great community organizations doing the work. So once you've registered to vote and you have your vote by mail ballot, you know who and when you're voting, you can then secure your selection and choices by going to the website and clicking on this button here. You can create your unique and customizable ballot for you. We partnered with an awesome organization called Ballot Ready, and they put together this really, really cool widget for us where you type in your address, you type in your email address, as well as your physical address. You can sign up for email updates from us if you want to. You select the language that you're choosing and you click Get Started. And then you're going to make this selection between whether you're a registered Republican or a registered Democrat, because like I said, there are specific races for party specific or nonpartisan. I'll choose the Republican ballot just so we can see. And so as you can see, if you're a registered Republican and you're living at 400 Coral Way, you're going to be making a choice for the Florida 27th Congressional District. And you can walk through each of the candidates in this race, and you can find their experience, their education, where they stand on the issues, as well as some of the endorsements that they've received from community organizations. Once you've made your selection for each of these races, you can then add this person to your ballot by clicking here, and you go through each of these races and select your choice for each race. And then you can print your ballot, or you can email your ballot to yourself or your friends or anyone that you may want to know who you voted for. And you can take that to the polls so you're ready, or you can have it next to you while you're filling out your vote by mail ballot. You can then also take it all the way through here, and you can make a plan to vote. You can choose to vote in person, by mail. You can vote early, so we can be like Lauren and we can vote tomorrow. And then it'll tell us also, right, the Coral Gables Branch Library, the West Miami Community Center. These are all the places that I can go and vote. And then you can even go next and you can select a time and it'll send you a Google Cal invite and even reminders to go and vote there. So you can have a sample ballot ready. You can do all the prep work at home and it'll take you all the way through to helping it make it really, really easy for you to vote at the polls.
Nikki, that's a really, really cool piece of this website, and I think it's worth really digging into, and even just explaining for folks the importance of being able to get your individual ballot because of your address. And folks who are living in different parts of Miami-Dade County are, of course, going to be voting for different elected offices. So, of course, you know, this example that we just looked at, the first thing that came up was the Florida Congressional District. I think it's at 26. And of course, depending on what part of Miami you live in, you may for either that specific congressional seat or for any congressional seat at all, because of course, this all depends on where it is that you live. And so just the ease of being able to see your exact ballot based on your address through that tool is really, really cool. And your recommendation of you know, being able to print your options, your selections ahead of time, and to be safe in bringing that in with you into the ballot box. That's a really cool tool as well. And so I think it's worth really highlighting for folks that you can walk in with your mask, with your hand sanitizer, and with your printed ballot ready selections to make voting easy and safe. So now I'm thinking about Lauren on Thursday morning, after I have voted and done my civic duty of submitting my ballot. What are the things that I can do now? Once I have submitted my ballot, once I've voted, once I'm ready and registered, of course, and gearing up for our next election in November. What are some of the other things that I can be doing to maintain and remain civically engaged between now and November?
Well, I love the civic enthusiasm, Lauren. Thanks for looking beyond just your ballot box. That's really important, is gathering all of our people and everyone around us. Because as I said earlier in the call, that's a strong democracy is when all of us are heard and represented. And so if you're like Lauren and wanna help out and get really, really civically engaged, you can also check out the resources section of the website. Which is, and I also wanted to mention, as you're making decisions, we also have an endorsements list down here. So all of the Miami relevant endorsements, if you find any that are not listed here, we'd love to have them because we know folks that's helpful for people across all parties to help them when they're voting. And then we also have some awesome register, learn, and mobilize community resources. So for each of these sections, right, we're not the only folks who are doing this work. There are other amazing civically minded organizations who are doing this day in and day out, who have put out amazing resources. And like I said, Vote Miami was intended to find a consolidated place for all of these things. And so check these out, send them to your people. If they need any help learning about the importance of elections, who they should be voting for, why it matters, how to register, and also how to mobilize. And then the thing that I've spent a lot of time on that I love, and I hope everyone else does as well, to mobilize their people, is, as I said earlier as well, social media is so, so important. And so we've created a ton of social media images for you can drag it off. It's easy peasy. Feel free to use them, tag us, tag your people, send them to folks, edit them as you will, and share away, because that's super important in getting everyone to the polls.
Very cool. And it definitely helps that all of those graphics are so good looking. I mean, I just was personally really happy to be able to put that much, just such curated, interesting, good looking, user friendly, clear content on my personal Instagram. I thank you guys for putting together really good looking stuff, because of course that matters. But you know, here in Miami, we've got, you know, this whole kind of range of residents, of people who contribute to our ecosystem and to our environment here. And so we would be remiss to not acknowledge that there's, you know, going to be a handful of people coming up in this election who maybe aren't necessarily going to be able to vote. But that doesn't mean that there aren't ways for them to remain civically engaged, plugged in, informed, and sharing out these types of resources. And so I would like to ask as well, for all of our friends who can't vote, what can they do? What's their role here, and how can they remain really active here in Miami?
Yes, excellent question. And just as you said, Lauren, don't count yourself out, right? Elected officials are held accountable by each and every one of us. That's why voting is so important, is they make decisions on a day-to-day basis that affect everything from our morning to commute, to how much we're getting paid, to the quality of our lives, and how we're going to respond to different things in Miami's future. And so what I will say is, whether you're young, whether you're a non-citizen, or some other barrier to voting you have faced, don't count yourself out. You can not only mobilize your friends and family to vote and educate them, help them get informed about different topics that are important that are coming up in elections. You can also head to county commission meetings, or also go to your local municipal meetings and make your voice heard on different voting action items, etc. Don't count yourself out just because you can't vote. You have a voice in multiple areas of our community.
Absolutely, and I might even mention that while elections are certainly coming up and very present for all of us, budget season's coming up as well. And so knowing that both our cities and our county are going through what will probably be a pretty tough budget season, know that each of those agencies does generally host public meetings where you as a resident are able to provide feedback, input, and help set the priorities for the budget for the next fiscal year. And so I think that's another good way for people to stay informed. To your point, if they do experience those barriers to voting in a traditional sense, there's still ways to stay informed, and all those ways that you just rattled off is, I think, inspiring, and hopefully will help people to feel like they still have a place to be and ways to be engaged. It's really great.
Yeah, I totally agree, Lauren. There's so much more to civic engagement than simply voting. For now, you have votemiami.org to get out there. That's the pressing thing at the moment. We're voting in a week, and then we're going to be voting in November again. So let's get out there. And then there's going to be so much more posts that holding our elected officials accountable, and making sure they're really representing us on a day-to-day basis. And I hope that the foundation is on board with us in the future, and I'm excited to work together to do those things. So please, everyone, be safe, get out there, make your voice heard. Let's do this thing.